The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth flickered simultaneously, from Times Square's massive displays to the smallest smartphones in remote villages. The aliens had finally made contact, but not in the way humanity had hoped. Admiral James Walker stood in the United Nations Emergency Command Center, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh glow of the main screen. The message played again. People of Earth, the Galactic Council has deemed your species too dangerous to remain independent. Submit to our authority within 48 hours, or face extinction. Walker's fists clenched as he watched the alien creature deliver its message. The being had gray skin that seemed to shimmer like metal, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Behind it stood representatives of other alien species. Some looked almost human, others were completely foreign to any earthly life form. They think we're dangerous. Walker turned to Dr. Emma Thompson, Earth's leading expert in defensive technologies. That's rich, coming from someone threatening genocide. Emma adjusted her glasses, her fingers flying over her tablet. The signal's coming from just beyond Mars' orbit. They have a fleet of about 300 ships, ranging from destroyer class to what appears to be several planet-killer vessels. The room fell silent. Humanity had known they weren't alone for decades. The first hints had come from strange signals caught by radio telescopes in 2089. Then came the mysterious disappearance of several deep space probes, and finally, undeniable evidence of artificial structures on the edge of the solar system. They had prepared in secret. Every major nation had poured resources into defense technology, knowing this day might come. Underground cities had been built, weapons had been developed. But would it be enough? The UN Security Council convened within the hour. Representatives from every nation gathered, both in person and through secure holographic projections. Another technology developed from studying those strange signals. We've got 20 massive bunker networks spread across every continent, the Russian representative announced. Each can house 10 million people indefinitely. Our orbital defense grid is at 100% capacity, added the Indian delegate. The shield generators are ready for full deployment. Walker stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I know what you're thinking. 300 advanced alien ships against our modest fleet of 50. Impossible odds. He paused, allowing a small smile to cross his face. But they don't know what we know. They don't know we've been preparing. They don't know about Project Prometheus. Emma stood next to him, bringing up a holographic display of Earth's secret weapon. We reversed engineered certain artifacts we found in Antarctica. The technology is crude compared to theirs, but it works on principles they won't expect. Their energy weapons rely on focused plasma streams. Our shields don't just block them. They absorb and redirect the energy. The Chinese representative leaned forward. And you're certain this will work? We tested it against the weapons we developed based on their technology, Emma replied. It works. But more importantly, we have something they don't expect. We're not the primitive species they think we are. The next 47 hours were a blur of activity. Across the globe, people were calmly guided to the bunker networks. It wasn't a panic. Humanity had drilled for this. Children carried their backpacks like it was just another school day. Parents followed emergency protocols they'd learned years ago. The surface would soon become a battleground, but underground, civilization would continue. Walker coordinated from the military command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. 50 ships wasn't their true number. It was what they wanted the aliens to see. Hundreds of smaller vessels lay hidden in asteroid fields and beneath the lunar surface. Thousands of automated drone fighters waited in powered-down mode, scattered across Earth's orbit. 6 hours before the deadline, Emma made a breakthrough. "Admiral, look at this," she called, bringing up an analysis of the alien transmission. Their message, it's not just a warning. There's data embedded in the carrier wave. They're broadcasting their complete technological specifications. Their weapons, their shields, everything. Walker frowned. Why would they do that? Because they're arrogant, Emma said. her eyes shining. This is meant to intimidate us, show us how hopeless resistance would be. But they just handed us their playbook. The final hour approached. The Galactic Council's fleet moved closer, their ships arranging themselves in a perfect geometric pattern around Earth. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Walker stood before the emergency broadcast system. His message would reach everyone in the bunkers, everyone in the military, everyone who was about to fight for humanity's survival. He thought about keeping it simple, maybe just saying, "Remember your training." Instead, he spoke from the heart. "They call us dangerous," he began. "They're right. We are dangerous to anyone who threatens our home, our families, our right to exist. They think we're primitive because we're young. They think we're weak because we're diverse. They think we'll surrender because we fear death. They're wrong. We are humanity. We did not climb from the oceans, survive ice ages, build civilizations, and reach for the stars just to kneel before the first bully we met in space. We are humanity, and we say no." The deadline passed. The Galactic Council's ships powered up their weapons, their formation perfect, their technology superior, their victory assured. They weren't ready for what happened next. As their energy weapons fired, the shield over Earth shimmered into existence. But it didn't just block the attack. It caught it, held it, and then sent it back. 20 Council ships exploded in the first exchange. Then Earth's hidden fleet emerged, not in a perfect formation, but in chaos theory patterns that human mathematicians had spent years calculating. Drone fighters swarmed from hidden bases. The Council's neat formations broke apart as they tried to track targets that moved in ways their combat computers couldn't predict. "This is humanity," Walker transmitted on all frequencies as the battle began. "And we do not surrender." The space around Earth turned into a light show of explosions and energy beams. The Council's ships moved like dancers in a ballet, each movement precise and calculated. But humanity's vessels darted about like street fighters, unpredictable and fierce. Admiral Walker watched the battle unfold on the main screen. "Status report," he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos displayed before him. "Their first wave lost 37 ships," reported Captain Michael Reed from his position at the tactical station. "Our shields are holding at 89%. No civilian casualties reported. The bunker network is secure." Emma rushed into the command center, her tablet displaying new data. "Admiral, you need to see this. The Council ships, they're not just fighting us. They're collecting data. Every shot they fire, every move they make, it's all part of their learning algorithm." Walker nodded grimly. "They still think this is just a test, that they're studying a primitive species." He turned to his communication officer. "Patch me through to all fleet commanders." The battle had spread across the entire solar system. Human ships used the asteroid belt for cover, emerging to strike, and then vanishing again. The Council's perfect formations had been broken, forced to split up to chase shadows. "All ships, execute pattern Delta," Walker commanded. "Let's show them why you never corner a human." Across space, Earth's fleet began to move in new ways. Ships that had been flying solo suddenly paired up. Vessels that seemed to be retreating turned and fought. The Council's advanced combat computers struggled to find patterns in the seemingly random changes. On the Council's command ship, High Speaker Trell watched in growing confusion. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as another perfect attack formation was scattered by the humans' chaotic defense. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technology is inferior. Their ships are smaller. Their weapons are crude. How are they doing this?" His tactical officer, a being of pure energy contained in a metallic suit, reported with growing concern. "High Speaker, we've lost contact with the 4th attack wing. The humans, they're using our own energy weapons against us. They're learning faster than our combat systems can adapt." In Earth's orbit, a massive Council dreadnought powered up its main gun, a weapon designed to crack planets. The beam fired, a blinding lance of energy that could have vaporized a continent. Instead, It hit Emma's shield network. For a moment, the shields glowed bright enough to be seen from Mars. Then the energy was redirected, not back at the Council ships, but into Earth's power grid. Across the planet, in deep underground bunkers, millions of humans watched as their power reserves jumped to maximum capacity. They still don't understand, Emma said, watching the energy readings. Their weapons are just giving us more power. Each attack makes us stronger. The Council launched their second wave, bringing in smaller, faster ships. They had adapted their tactics, trying to match humanity's unpredictable style. But this was what Walker had been waiting for. "Launch the drones," he ordered. Thousands of small, unmanned fighters emerged from hiding spots all across the solar system. They were simple machines by Council standards, barely more than engines and weapons. But they were controlled by human pilots sitting safely in bunkers, using neural interfaces that let them fly with their thoughts. The Council's ships, programmed to fight with perfect logic, couldn't handle the human element. Each drone moved with the instincts and creativity of its pilot. Some flew straight into enemy fire because the pilot saw a chance worth taking. Others pulled off maneuvers that should have torn them apart because the pilot felt it would work. High Speaker, the Council's tactical officer, reported, "We're detecting music being broadcast from the human ships." Indeed, humanity fought with a soundtrack. Rock music, classical symphonies, battle hymns from 100 cultures, all blasting across space. The Council's commanders couldn't understand why anyone would waste transmission bandwidth on such a thing during battle. They didn't understand that humans had learned long ago that rhythm could unite people, that music could steady nerves and strengthen resolve. 6 hours into the battle, the Council tried a new approach. They targeted Earth's moon with a gravity weapon, hoping to disrupt the tides and cause chaos on the planet. Instead, the weapon's energy was caught by the shield network and redirected into humanity's first counterattack. Walker gave the order: execute Project Thunderstorm. Across Earth's orbit, hidden installations activated. The energy stolen from the Council's own weapons was transformed, focused, and released in a way that violated what the aliens thought was possible. The blast wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to disrupt. Council ships suddenly lost power. Their quantum communications network, the key to their perfect coordination, went dark. For the first time in the Council's history, their fleet was in chaos. How? High Speaker Trell demanded. How did they know about the quantum frequency? How did they build weapons that could affect it? They were supposed to be primitives. Emma's voice was filled with pride as she explained to Walker. They thought we would develop technology the same way they did. Step by step, following the same path. They didn't expect us to take shortcuts, to jump ahead in some areas while staying behind in others. They don't understand that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to be unpredictable. The battle continued, but the tide had turned. Without their perfect coordination, the Council ships fought as individuals, and humans had been fighting as individuals since the beginning of their history. As the Council fleet began to retreat, Walker received an unexpected transmission. It came from a Council ship, but on a frequency their leaders didn't know about. "Humans," the message said, "there are those among us who have watched your species with different eyes. We saw not primitives to be conquered, but younger siblings to be protected. Know that you are not alone in your resistance. When the time comes, remember that not all Council species supported this war." Walker shared the message with Earth's leadership. They had won their first battle, but the war was just beginning. Yet already, cracks were showing in the Council's unity. "Send a message to all ships," Walker ordered. "Tell them to hold position, but do not pursue the retreating forces." He turned to Emma. "How many ships did we lose?" 12 destroyed, 8 damaged but repairable, she reported. "Considering we were fighting the most advanced fleet in known space, I'd say we did pretty well." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "We did more than that. We showed them something they've never seen before." He looked at the tactical display, where the Council's fleet was racing away from Earth. We showed them that humanity doesn't follow their rules. We showed them that their perfect order can be broken by our creative chaos. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the command center grew quiet. They had won, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Council would be back, with new weapons and new tactics. But humanity would be ready, with new surprises of their own. In the depths of space, the Council fleet retreated, their perfect formation shattered, their confidence broken. They had come expecting to find primitives. Instead, they had found humanity, and humanity had shown them why it was dangerous to underestimate the young. 2 months after Earth's first victory, humanity had learned an important lesson. Winning one battle was different from winning a war. The Council controlled thousands of star systems, and they weren't going to let one defeat go unanswered. Admiral Walker stood in the newly constructed war room beneath the Pacific Ocean, studying the holographic map of known space. Red dots showed confirmed Council positions, while blue marks indicated human assets. There weren't nearly enough blue marks. They're gathering their forces here. Captain Reed pointed to a cluster of red dots near Alpha Centauri. But we think it's a trick. Our spies report their main fleet is actually assembling in this region. His finger moved to a different sector. Walker smiled. The Council didn't know that their perfect society had leaks. Some of their own people had secretly reached out to humanity, impressed by Earth's resistance. Not every species in the Council agreed with the war. Emma burst into the room, her eyes bright with excitement. We did it. The reverse engineering team just cracked their FTL drive technology. We can build our own now. This was the news they had been waiting for. Until now, humanity had been trapped in their own solar system, forced to play defense. But with faster-than-light travel, they could take the fight to the enemy. How soon can we modify our ships? Walker asked. That's the best part, Emma replied. We didn't just copy their design. We improved it. Their ships need special fuel and huge engines. Ours will be smaller, faster, and can use regular fusion power. The Council had built their technology like a perfect tower, each piece precisely placed on top of the others. Humanity built theirs like a child's building blocks, mixing and matching, trying new combinations just to see what would happen. Walker called an emergency meeting with Earth's military command. Representatives from every nation gathered around the massive round table, their faces showing a mix of hope and determination. Ladies and gentlemen, Walker began. It's time for Operation Wildfire. The plan was bold, maybe even crazy. But humans were good at crazy. While the Council gathered their massive fleets, humanity would strike at their supply lines, their communication hubs, their fuel depots, small, fast ships appearing out of nowhere, causing chaos, and disappearing before the Council could respond. Captain Reed led the first raid. His ship, the Thunderchild, appeared near a Council fuel depot in a distant star system. The Council guards were confused. Their sensors showed a ship that looked like their own design, but moved all wrong. Now you see us, Reed transmitted on all frequencies as his ship launched its attack. Now you don't. The Thunderchild vanished into FTL speed, leaving behind a destroyed fuel depot and very confused Council forces. Similar attacks happened across Council space. Human ships, built with stolen and modified technology, struck without warning. They didn't try to hold territory or fight big battles. They just caused chaos, always moving, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. In his command ship, High Speaker Trell was facing a rebellion. How are they doing this? He demanded. How are they appearing everywhere at once? It's not possible, his science advisor insisted. Their level of technology shouldn't allow for such rapid FTL travel. They must have stolen our designs. No, Trell said slowly, a horrifying realization dawning. They didn't steal them. They took them and made them better. Back on Earth, Emma's team made another breakthrough. They had captured a Council communication device and discovered something interesting about how it worked. Their whole network runs on quantum entanglement, she explained to Walker. It's perfect, unbreakable, instant communication across any distance. But it's also rigid, unchangeable. They can't adapt it without rebuilding the whole network. Walker saw the opportunity immediately. Can we break it? Emma grinned. Better. We can hijack it. The next phase of Operation Wildfire began. Human ships would appear in Council systems, but now they also broadcasted on the Council's own secure channels. Messages of freedom, of resistance, of hope. Stories about how Earth had stood up to the Council's demands. The Council's perfect society began to crack. Species that had been conquered centuries ago began to question their masters. Worlds that had been content under Council rule started to wonder if there was another way. 3 Council members secretly contacted Earth. They were younger species, more recently admitted to the Council, and they saw in humanity a chance for change. Your victory over our fleet was impressive, their message said, but your real victory is showing us that the Council's way isn't the only way. Walker brought this news to Earth's leaders. The Council is fighting this war on 2 fronts now, he explained, against our ships in space and against our ideas in their own society. But the Council wasn't finished. They still had vast resources, mighty fleets, and millennia of experience. They began adapting their tactics, trying to fight the way humans fought. But this only played into humanity's hands. They don't understand. Reed told his crew after another successful raid. You can't just copy chaos. You have to embrace it. Emma's team kept working, kept improving their technology. They didn't try to match the Council's perfect designs. Instead, they mixed different technologies together in ways the Council would never think to try. Walker watched the war unfold with growing confidence. The Council's rigid military structure was falling apart trying to chase shadows. Their perfect society was straining as more of their people began to question why they were fighting this war at all. We're not going to beat them with bigger ships or better weapons, he told Earth's leaders. We're going to beat them by showing the galaxy a different way to live. A way where perfection isn't as valuable as creativity, where unity doesn't mean uniformity. The Council had expected to find primitives when they reached Earth. Instead, they found humans. Adaptable, unpredictable, and absolutely refusing to do things the way they were supposed to be done. And now, as Operation Wildfire spread across the stars like its namesake, the Council was learning another human truth. Sometimes the most dangerous ideas are the ones that make people think differently. In the vast darkness of space, humanity's ships continued their dance of chaos, appearing and disappearing like ghostly dancers. And in their wake, they left something the Council feared more than weapons or ships. They left hope. Hope that the perfect order of the galaxy could change. Hope that being young and different wasn't a weakness. Hope that creativity and chaos could match perfection and order. The war was far from over, but its nature had changed. It was no longer just about humanity's survival. It had become about humanity's gift to the galaxy. The gift of choosing your own path, even if that path wasn't perfect. 6 months into the war, the humans made a discovery that would change everything. It happened in an abandoned research station on Mars, where Emma and her team had been studying captured Council technology. Admiral Walker, you need to see this right now. Emma's voice cracked with excitement over the communication link. Within an hour, Walker stood in her lab, staring at what looked like a simple metal cube. What am I looking at? He asked, watching the cube float in midair. Emma's hands moved quickly over her control panel. We thought the Council's technology was just more advanced than ours. But it's not. It's fundamentally different. They discovered one path to manipulate physics, and they stuck to it. We found another. The cube began to glow, and suddenly every piece of Council technology in the lab stopped working. But human devices kept running perfectly. They built their empire on quantum mechanics, Emma explained. We've been playing their game, trying to copy their technology. But what if we changed the rules entirely? Word spread quickly through Earth's military command. Humanity had spent months stealing and copying Council technology. Now they would forge their own path. Project Lightning was born. On the front lines, Captain Reed and his crew tested the first prototype of the new technology. The Thunderchild's engines now ran on principles that the Council's sensors couldn't even detect. They didn't just avoid enemy scans. They appeared impossible to the Council's understanding of physics. It's like trying to explain color to a blind person. Reed told his crew, "Their sensors are looking for quantum signatures, but we're not using quantum physics anymore." The Council noticed something was wrong when their ships started losing battles in new ways. Human vessels seemed to appear from nowhere, ignore the laws of physics, and vanish again. Weapons that had worked perfectly for millennia suddenly couldn't lock onto their targets. High Speaker Trull called an emergency meeting of the Council's remaining loyal members. Their perfect chamber, with its soaring crystal spires and floating platforms, felt less impressive now. 3 seats stood empty. The species that had secretly contacted Earth. "The humans have developed something new," Trull announced, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "Something that doesn't follow the proper laws of science." "Impossible," declared the science minister, a being of pure energy. "There is only one correct path of technological development. We have spent 10,000 years perfecting it." But the evidence was impossible to ignore. Human ships were now running circles around Council vessels. Their weapons weren't just effective. They seemed to ignore Council shields completely. Back on Earth, Walker received an unexpected message. It came from one of the Council's oldest member species, transmitted through back channels. "We have watched your species with great interest." The message read, "For millennia, we believed perfection was the goal. Now you show us that perfection is a cage. Many of us wished to break free." The Council's perfect society was crumbling. More species began to question the war. Some openly refused to fight. Others secretly sabotaged Council operations. The rigid structure that had maintained peace for thousands of years was breaking apart. Emma's team kept pushing the boundaries of their new technology. They didn't try to make it perfect. They made it flexible, adaptable, human. Each ship's crew could modify their systems on the fly, trying new combinations in the middle of battle. "The Council thinks technology should be like a symphony," Emma told Walker, "where every piece fits perfectly together. We're treating it like jazz, improvising, experimenting, finding new harmonies they never imagined." The turning point came during the Battle of Alpha Centauri. The Council had gathered their largest fleet yet, over 1,000 ships, determined to crush the human rebellion once and for all. They expected to face Earth's fleet in a traditional battle. Instead, they found empty space. Their sensors showed nothing. Their quantum detectors registered no ships. But then human vessels began appearing inside their formation, their new engines allowing them to slip between the gaps in Council sensors. "Target their command ships," Walker ordered from his flagship. "Show them what happens when you try to cage lightning." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council ships fired at enemies they couldn't properly detect. Human vessels phased in and out of what the Council considered possible space. Traditional battle formations fell apart as each human ship fought in its own unique way. The Council's fleet didn't just lose, it was humiliated. Ships that had dominated space for centuries found themselves unable to even track their targets. Weapons that could crack planets couldn't hit vessels that seemed to dance between moments of time. In the aftermath, more Council species began reaching out to Earth. Not just the younger ones now, but older species too. They had seen something they thought impossible, a completely new way of approaching the universe. "Maybe we were wrong," one message said. "Maybe perfection isn't about finding the right answer and stopping there. Maybe it's about never stopping at all." Walker brought this message to Earth's leaders. The war wasn't over, but its nature had changed completely. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were leading a revolution in how civilization itself could work. The Council's greatest mistake, Walker told them, wasn't attacking us. It was thinking that their way was the only way. That progress only moves in one direction. Emma's team continued to develop new technologies, each one more impossible by Council standards than the last. But they kept them simple, adaptable, human. They didn't create perfect weapons. They created tools that could change and grow. "Sir," Reed's voice came over the command channel one morning. "The Council's starting to pull their fleets back to their core worlds. But our allies say they're planning something big. Something desperate." Walker looked at the tactical display, where more and more Council territory was showing signs of rebellion. The perfect empire was fracturing, its rigid structure unable to handle the chaos that humanity had introduced to the galaxy. "Let them come," he said. "We'll show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to imagine something new, something different, something that doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful." The war was entering its final phase. The Council's ordered universe was falling apart, and in its place, something new was emerging. Something that combined the best of both worlds, the Council's knowledge and humanity's creativity. And as Earth's ships prepared for what would be the final battles, they carried with them not just weapons and shields, but an idea that the universe was big enough for more than one way of doing things. That perfection wasn't as important as progress. That sometimes the best path forward was one that no one had ever imagined before. The Council's final attack began at dawn, Earth time. They came with everything they had left. 5,000 ships, their largest fleet ever assembled. High Speaker Trell had committed every loyal vessel to this last, desperate assault on humanity's home system. In the command center deep beneath the Pacific, Admiral Walker watched the massive fleet approach. But he wasn't worried. In fact, he was smiling. "They still think numbers are what matter," he said to Emma, who stood beside him monitoring their new defense systems. "They still haven't learned." Earth had changed in the months since the war began. The planet's surface now bristled with defense towers that operated on humanity's new physics. Orbital platforms housed weapons that the Council's sensors couldn't even detect. But humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was what they had learned about their enemy. "All ships, execute final protocol," Walker commanded. "Show them why you never corner a species that thrives on impossible situations." The battle began with the Council's fleet advancing in perfect formation. Their ships moved like the threads of a grand tapestry, each one precisely placed. It would have been beautiful if it wasn't meant to end human civilization. Then humanity's ships appeared, not in formation, not in any pattern the Council could recognize. Each vessel moved independently, fighting its own battle, making its own choices. The Council's tactical computers tried to predict their movements and failed completely. "They're launching their main attack," Captain Reed reported from the Thunderchild. "Just like you said they would, Admiral." Walker nodded. "Spring the trap." Emma pressed a sequence of commands into her console. Across the solar system, hidden emitters activated. They didn't fire weapons or ray shields. Instead, they did something the Council had always considered impossible. They changed the rules. The laws of physics shifted subtly in vast sections of space. Council weapons that relied on precise quantum calculations suddenly fired in random directions. Their perfect formations fell apart as their ships' engines responded to laws of motion that no longer worked the way they should. "Impossible," High Speaker Trell shouted as his flagship's systems reported complete chaos. "They cannot change the fundamental laws of reality." But they had. Humanity hadn't tried to beat the Council at their own game. They had invented a new game entirely. The battle split into thousands of smaller fights. Council ships, trained to fight as part of a perfect whole, found themselves alone and confused. Human vessels, each crew used to thinking for themselves, adapted instantly. Walker watched the tactical display as Council formation shattered. "Now," he ordered, "show them what humanity can really do." Earth's defense towers activated, but they didn't fire normal weapons. Instead, they released waves of probability distortion. Council ships found themselves experiencing every possible outcome of their actions simultaneously. Some froze in space, their crews unable to choose which reality to believe in. Others flew in circles, chasing sensor readings that existed in multiple states at once. Their flagship is trying to coordinate a retreat, Emma reported, watching the quantum communications network light up with desperate signals. But half their fleet can't figure out which direction away is anymore. In his command ship, High Speaker Trell faced the impossible. His perfect fleet, the finest military force in known space, was being taken apart by physics that shouldn't exist. The humans weren't just beating them. They were proving that everything the Council believed about the universe was wrong. How? He demanded of his science officers. How are they doing this? They're not following the rules, one officer replied, his voice filled with something like awe. They're not even breaking them. They're simply ignoring them, writing new ones. The battle reached its peak as Earth's fleet pressed their advantage. Human ships, perfectly adapted to the new physics they had created, danced through space like they were part of it. Council vessels, still trying to impose order on chaos, found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't understand. Then came the moment that would be remembered for centuries. High Speaker Trell's flagship, the greatest vessel ever built by the Council, found itself surrounded by 3 human ships that weren't even supposed to be able to exist. This is Admiral James Walker of Earth. Walker's voice transmitted across all frequencies. You came to our home and demanded we submit to your perfect order. We chose chaos instead. Surrender, and we'll show you why that was the right choice. The Council's empire had lasted 10,000 years. They had spread their perfect order across thousands of worlds. They had believed they knew everything worth knowing about the universe. Now, watching his fleet fall apart in ways that defied explanation, High Speaker Trell made the first imperfect decision of his life. He surrendered. The words that echoed across space were simple. We surrender to humanity. The war is over. But it wasn't just the war that was over. The Council's perfect society, their rigid hierarchy, their belief in absolute order, all of it had been shaken to its core. In the days that followed, more Council species began reaching out to Earth. Not in fear, but in fascination. They had seen something they had forgotten was possible. The joy of discovery, the thrill of finding new ways to do things, the freedom to be imperfect. Walker stood in the United Nations Hall a week after the surrender, addressing representatives from Earth and the former Council worlds. We didn't win this war because we were stronger, he told them. We won because we refused to believe in limits, because every time the Council said something was impossible, we tried it anyway. Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to look at the rules, smile, and say, let's try something new instead. Emma's team began sharing their discoveries with scientists from other worlds. Not as perfect solutions, but as starting points for new exploration. The Council's rigid technology began to merge with human innovation, creating things neither side had imagined possible. The galaxy was changing. The Council's perfect order was being replaced by something new, a civilization that valued creativity alongside stability, chaos alongside order, innovation alongside tradition. Captain Reed, standing on the bridge of the Thunderchild, looked out at the stars and smiled. You know what the funny thing is, he said to his crew. They thought they were testing us, seeing if we deserved to join their perfect society. Instead, we showed them that perfection isn't about getting everything right. It's about having the courage to try something new. As the sun set on Earth that evening, humanity looked to the stars with new eyes. They had faced the greatest power in known space, and won not through strength or technology, but by being uniquely human, adaptable, unpredictable, and absolutely refusing to accept that anything was impossible. The Council had waged war on humanity, expecting to find primitives. Instead, they found a species that would change the galaxy forever. Their final words had been, "We surrender," but what they really meant was, "You showed us a better way." And in the vast darkness of space, countless worlds looked toward Earth with hope. wondering what impossible things humanity would dream up next.